Now, you're probably wondering why organists have to spend so much of their time, often in a cold church, practicing. And that's because no matter how many times you've played a piece of music, you might have played a piece for donkey's years, when you visit a different organ, you have to reorchestrate that piece of music to make it appropriate for the building and for the instrument you're playing. And you choose the stops, you pencil instructions into your music as to which of these buttons, which we call pistons, which of those will be used, because I can find the stops I want, set them up on, say, number 1, so that when I press number 1, for example, the selection that I have made for the first piece of the whole program, the Mendelssohn Sonata, this registration, this combination of colours comes into play. For this grand opening, I'm entitled Grave. That's in contrast to the lovely, delicate, not to say that that sound there isn't lovely, it's beautiful, but the very contrasting sound of the oboe against a gentle flute for the opening of the second movement of this sonata. So I've set it up already on piston number 2. There it is. It took me a while to work out which stops I wanted, but then I did, choosing whether this flute or that flute or the other to get the right sound. Here is the beginning of the second movement. Etc. Then we have the third movement, which is highly contrasted. It's fairly sort of fanfaric. It's a bit like a fanfare, but minus the trumpets and reeds, really. So I try and find the sort of sound I want. Quite typically, there are no stops drawn. You know, the organist presses a chord or some notes. No sound comes out, and I can very gradually build up the sort of sound that I want. Pedal as well. And I'm thinking that sound will probably do for this next movement, so I'm going to press set and put it on piston number 3 so that I can go from the opening to the second movement to then the third movement, which goes like this. From that odd fluff note there, I'm also realising that there is a certain sound that's perhaps too heavy in the pedal, so I then maybe extract something that was too much. Maybe that one. And I'm slightly happier with that sound, so I then reset that onto piston 3. So this is why an organist takes such a long while. And also the other thing to bear in mind is that for an organist, the way the organ sounds where I'm sitting, it's very, very different from how it sound if I was sitting out in the church. So what I will do is I'm going to be doing some recording, actually, which will form part of the Holy Trinity Gosport organ restoration DVD. I will be doing some recording for that later this afternoon, and I shall listen back to what I've recorded just to see if the organ really did sound as I thought it did. So quite a challenging life for an organist, isn't it, you can see, but great fun.